Hey everybody, and welcome to another Tausken review. Today we're going to be taking a look at Convoy, a game that brings FTL-like gameplay to a Mad Max setting. The basic premise is pretty simple. Your ship crashes on and you need to find parts to repair your ship. It's much more open than FTL, as to say that there's no rebel fleet chasing you, allowing you to basically go in any direction you want. Also, unlike FTL, there isn't like a single goal, there's multiple objectives and you can pick to do them in any order you want. So you basically just pick a direction that you want to go and then start driving that way. The actual combat is really the meat and bones of the game, and it's the main focus of what you'll be doing 90% of the time. It's a horizontal scroller with some tactical elements. The basic idea is Mad Max style. You've got these vehicles with guns on them that are trying to destroy each other. Each car can sit in a lane and be moved between the different lanes and just continually move. You can also move them forward ahead or back, so you want to try and position your vehicles in a smart way to try and allow them to either block damage or attack an enemy or something like that. It does give a tactical choice in that regard, like you're trying to protect your MCV, which is your main vehicle, so you might position your vehicles in a certain way to try and guard it. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a CNC reference. There's a ton of them in this game, and other 90s games and movies references all over the place. It very much feels like the writing in this game was designed very much around that. But getting back to the actual gameplay, your basic idea is you're trying to protect your MCV, which is sort of like your main unit. And there's also different obstacles and things you'll run into along the way as you're doing combat. So sometimes you have to move units out of the way to swerve or dodge a canyon or a rock or something, or maybe there's a bridge and you'll have to try and get all your units onto it, otherwise they'll just smash into the water and be gone. Vehicles can come in all sorts of different forms, from vehicles that can ram into each other for additional damage, or powerful weapons like railguns and things that can shoot at range. You'll also get some light abilities you can use on your MCV, like EMPs or mine laying and stuff like that. It does feel pretty hectic at times. In some ways, I'd feel it's almost a little bit more hectic sometimes than even FTL. It's kind of crazy sometimes when you've got tons of vehicles and you're trying to micro them all individually to try and focus fire. Once you've actually got your units doing things, it's kind of just fire and forget. You kind of just let them go and do their things and you don't have to actually do a whole lot. The combat itself is a lot of fun and feels very fresh. I've never really played anything quite like it, so that makes it a lot of fun and very approachable. I totally dig the Mad Max style as well, and if you do, then you'll probably like this game. As you progress, you'll also be able to purchase different upgrades for your vehicles at different towns. You can even swap out your weapons and buy new vehicles, and of course you'll gain loot after every battle, which you can later use to purchase new things. The graphics are fairly simplistic, but detailed enough to be able to tell the difference from one another. It works very well for what it's really trying to be, and I don't think it really has to excel any further than it is. Now, the actual story itself is pretty bland and generic. The writing is not that great. There's all sorts of interesting references that you'll kind of laugh at here and there that are fun, but for the most part, it doesn't really feel like this writing actually does anything substantial. It's very generic, boring, and feels just not that great. The actual events that you'll run into throughout the game are a bit randomized, so sometimes runs will be a little bit different from one another, but this is a big problem I have with the game, is that it feels like it's just not as randomized as, say, FTL or other games that are roguelikes, because there's just so much of the fact that you'll run into the same things over and over again. We have the same event that I did the last time, or the run before that, before I died, and so this can get very boring and old fast when you're playing like your 5th or 6th run and pretty much you're running into the same events over and over again, reading the same things, where you basically just know what's going to happen, so you're just clicking the prompts. Overall, I think that Convoy is a pretty fun and unique game. It's got a great, interesting setting, and it has some unique, interesting mixes with how the combat works. It makes it feel very distinct and different from other games in the market. My biggest problem with this game is that it doesn't have enough randomization in it. For being a game that's trying to emulate something like FTL, it just doesn't have enough going for it to really make each run feel distinctly different, and as a result, I got bored pretty quickly. So this game gets a 7 out of 10. I think it's definitely doing something unique, interesting, and different from other games in the market, and I really appreciate that. But I just feel like it doesn't do enough to really distinctly make itself amazing. But that's not really to say that it's a bad game. It still has fun things, and if you get it for a cheap price point like I did, it's definitely fun to play. Difficulty is pretty dang hard though in this game, so you kind of have to play it a couple times to really get the hang of it and really feel like you're going somewhere, which can be a little bit off-putting for some people, but still, I do think the game is pretty fun. I do wish it was a little bit less RNG heavy at times, but otherwise, it's a pretty freaking fun game, and I would definitely recommend it to people who are remotely interested. If you can get it at a cheap on-sale price point, it's definitely a fun game. I just don't think it does anything distinctly different to really make it a long-term game that you could play for like 20, 30, or 40 hours long-term, but that doesn't mean it's bad.